All right, next we're gonna talk about the rods, what rods to use for these surface iron, and this is usually the fun part. Um, there's a lot of rods that you could use for this type of fishing. You know, ranging from 8 feet to 11 feet. Back in the old days, I think they used stuff up to 12 feet. Not too many people use 8 feet these days. It's a little short, but here it's an 8-foot rod, and this is a classic rod. It's a True Line D8, and this is one of the premier classic jig stick that people use in the past. I've always find it a little short for my taste, but you know it works. It works fine, especially for barracuda and stuff like that, where you know they bite the jigs readily, and long casts are not really necessary. So I'll take it out once in a while to fish it, but you know most cases they just sit at home in the rack. It's a nice rod though. So that's one option, and we're going to go make our way up here. Another one is the rod that I talked about earlier in my earlier segment on the yo-yo stuff. So this is a Seeker 80H. It's about 8'2", and you can definitely use this for surface iron. If you're not that great at casting, you don't want to cast too long of a rod. You want to start with a shorter rod, like an 8-foot rod. So something like this is perfect. Something like this you can definitely cast like a Taddy 45 or a Starman or a JRI 7, JRI 3. No, you can probably catch a 7X as well, but it'll just feel a little heavy on the tip. The tip is not that strong to support it, and that's one of the thing that I want to share with you guys. A lot of people who are new to casting in surface iron, they'll just put a jig on a rod and just go swing away. One of the most important thing to do is to match or to balance your jig, whatever jig you're trying to cast, with the setup you have. And you can feel the balance once you tie the jig on. Like for instance, you wouldn't want a rod that's rated 20 to 40 to cast one of these big jigs, because it'll feel like you're just slinging a rock out there. It just won't feel balanced. When you feel balanced, the tip barely loads. It's not so light that it's a broomstick. You can feel that's loaded, but it's not so heavy that the rod is actually bending, like as if you have a fish on. And the more you fish, the more you feel, the more you'll get better at that feeling. So with that said, those are a couple rods that you can start out fishing. And then after the 8-foot, you get into the 9-footer, which is where I like my jig sticks to be. My jig sticks are from 9 to 9.5. That's the sweet area for me. I don't really like 10-foot rods, and I know a lot of guys love 10-foot rods. And the reason is this: I fish sports boats exclusively. I don't fish on private boats, and a lot of time the bow is really crowded, and 10-foot rods is just way too long for you to get a back cast. And I don't want to be hitting anybody or just having a jig in front of someone's face. It's kind of rude. So 9.5 is the sweet spot for me. So most of my jig sticks are in that range. Let's say you want to throw the Taddy 1A. Taddy 1A is really light. It's maybe 1.6, 1.7 ounce. So it's less. I know it's less than 2 ounce for sure. So you wouldn't want a heavy rod to cast with that. So you want something like this rod that I use is a Seeker White Tiger 7X first generation. This rod has a really soft tip. You can't really tell here because I'm indoors, so I'm not walking around, but there you go. But you can tell that the tip is really light, and so it loads the lighter jigs really well. There's my videos. There's a couple of videos where I'm using this rod, and this is the jig that I'm throwing out. It's the Taddy 1/8. It's a really light jig, and it throws it out a mile. The thing to keep in mind is a lot of the time when we're fishing, surface iron, and you're hooked up to a say barracuda and stuff like that, or let's say anything under 10 pounds. If you're using a 40-pound setup, it's going to be pretty simple to bounce the fish up. You're using heavy gear. But if you're throwing something like this little jig with this light tip, you don't necessarily want to do that, even if you have heavy leader on, because you don't want to damage your rod. Your rod is whippy, so with a little heavy fish, that tip might break, and it could be very expensive. So I would say get a gaff and don't bounce. And the next rod here, this is the rod that you see me use most in my videos. This is the Phoenix Access 909 HJ. It's rated, I think, 30 to 80, but Phoenix fishes a lot lighter than their rating. Even though it's like I wouldn't ever fish 80 on this. I would say 40 to 50 is a sweet spot for this rod. So you see me use this for on a number of trips. It's awesome because it can cast the medium jigs like the Starman 112 or the Taddy 45, JRI 7, as well as the heavy jigs like the 7X fine. It casts both of those jigs fine, and in a couple of my videos, I think you even see me casting the little jigs on it, even though it's not optimally for it. It's better suited for the other rod, but sometimes I don't want to bring too many rods, so I would only bring this jig stick, and I cast this quite a ways out there, adequately enough to get bit. It'll load it sufficient enough to get a good cast out. Yeah, the more you cast, the more you start fishing with these, the more you'll realize that the lighter jigs and the medium jigs and the heavy jigs all load differently, and then you'll find your sweet spot in casting the different weight to get optimal distance for it. It's everybody's different, so the casting motion is going to be different. What works for me might not work for you, but in general terms, when you're casting, you want to get distance out there, and you need to have arc. So it's all physics. The higher it goes, the farther it's gonna land. So it just shoot it, kind of moonshot it out there, and it'll go really far, as opposed to like line drive. Same with golf. If you guys out there, if you play golf, you hit moonshots, it's gonna go pretty far compared to line drives. It's not gonna go far at all. So it's the same dynamics with casting. All right, so we got the lighter, and that Phoenix is kind of like the medium type jig stick that I use, even though it can cast all kinds of jigs. And here is my heavy setup, and I hardly ever take this out because I don't really use that many of the big jigs. This I can throw the 7X. Great. So the big ones, the JRI 4, awesome. It loads really well. Even the lighter jigs like the Taddy 45. This is a United Composite 900 Wahoo, and it has a really stiff tip for the bigger jigs. like I said, I don't fish the bigger jigs much, so I hardly ever bring this out. I need to start taking it out more often. It gets left behind too many times. I think the only real action it saw was last year on the Aloha Spirit. I got a few yellows on it on the surface line. I think it was on this one right here, the JRS7 in mint and white that I got those yellows on. So these are pretty much the basic rods that will handle all these jigs. So if a lot of people ask, well, what's a good jig stick to get if you're starting out? I would say if you're just starting out, you want to get into to jig fishing. If you already have those two bait rods that I recommended in my other video with tackle and gears, say like a Seeker 30H to fish for 30-pound test, I would say start going surface line on that rod if you already have it. You don't even need a true jig stick at first. Just to learn, just to see what your casting style is, what you're comfortable with, how far you can cast and things like that. And then once you're comfortable with that, then you can really and you really know what's good, what's appropriate, or which type of rods would optimize your casting style. You can go out and spend the money and get that. And there's a ton of jig sticks out there. Seekers make great ones. I have a few of the Seeker ones. I really like the White Tiger, so I have the first generation White Tiger you saw earlier. I also have the latest one that they have. This latest 7X is a little stiffer, so it can handle the bigger jigs. I haven't had a chance to fish it yet, but I'm sure I'll take it out sometime. Or Phoenix has a couple of good ones. For me, I like composite more than straight graphite. So I would, for throwing irons, just composite just loads better. So I would stay away from those black diamond rods, those all graphite rods. They don't load as well as the Axis. The Axis loads the best for Phoenix in my opinion. And you can go out there and pull on it yourself to come to your own conclusion. But to me, the Axis loads the best in the Phoenix line. And it's not a true composite because it doesn't have any glass in it, but it's some type of graphite that they mix together to give it that soft feel. And it feels a lot like the Cowstar Graphite. Oh yeah, speaking of which, Cowstar makes a lot of good jig sticks. I didn't have one here. It's in the other room. But 90J is a really good classic one, or 90J mag, which is what I have. The GG 90J mag. It's an awesome jig stick that can handle a variety of stuff. So there's a ton of jig sticks out there, as there are a ton of reels. As you can see, some of the reels that I have on my rods were the Trinidads and the Daiwa Satiga. You see my videos, I would have the Torium that I use a lot as well. All those are great, and any sizes from the 16 on would work awesome for a surface iron. 16 is my sweet spot. I like the 16 a lot, the Torium 16, the Trinidad 16, or the Satiga 20, which is a little bit smaller. And because I use braided line, I'm able to use those reels. Those are smaller reels. I can use 65-pound tests on those reels and have plenty of line because it's braided. Now, the minimum mono, if you're going to go mono, is 40-pound test. If I were to put 40-pound tests on those reels, I wouldn't have much line at all. So it would force me to use a bigger reel. Back in the old days, we used some really big reels because we have to fit enough of the 40-pound test on it. So I love the new technology these days with braided line. And that's a personal choice. I know there's some guys out there prefer mono over braid for casting surface iron, and there's a variety of reasons. I'll tell you this, when you're first starting out, try to fish mono, because mono is a lot easier to cast. Way easier. It's like night and day. Especially if you backlash, and you're gonna backlash a lot if you're first starting out. You backlash with braid, it's a nightmare. And if you end up cutting your line, it gets really, really expensive. Not to mention it'll ruin the day out on the fishing ground. So start with mono. Once you can cast well with mono, and I would say your backlash is 10% or less, then you can switch over to braid and use that if you like. If not, you can always stick to mono. Mono has its advantages. It's easier to cast. It has absorption. It's not as it doesn't have that no stretch issue that braid has. So you have a lot less pull hooks. But then you have to deal with a lot of bow in the line, a lot of stretch, especially on windy days when you're trying to get a hook set, and you can set the hook a lot easier with braid than with mono. So there are pros and cons both in both ways of fishing. Just choose what's best for you. People who are adamant about one way or the other. There are guys who say, oh yeah, the only way to fish surface iron is with mono, and you can't fish braid at all, which is not true. There's a ton of guys out there, really good jigs fishermen out there that use braid. So, and vice versa. And some guys who said braid is the best and don't use mono. Likewise, untrue. Whatever it's comfortable for you. I mean, people were using mono for how many years before braid came along? They caught fish fine. So like I said, use what's comfortable for you. For me, it's braid all the way.